But this is Will and Michaela, a couple of friends of mine, and they've been gracious enough to share a little bit about their experience as missionaries in Cambodia for the last couple of years. So I'd like to start off just sharing a little bit, if you would, about your call to Cambodia.
Hey everyone, good to see all of you guys joining from all around the US and around the world. Yeah, for us, our calling was both pretty different from each other. For me, I grew up in the Midwest and went to church pretty regularly. My family were all believers, and I early on started going on short-term mission trips with my church, my youth group, and just got hooked. Like, loved the experience of seeing these different countries and different cultures. And so there was one specific trip where I was able to visit a team in Morocco, and they were doing Bible translation. And there was this moment where I was outside one of the houses, and I'm just walking down this dirt road, and it's just really quiet, and it's just beautiful Moroccan rocky mountain countryside. And as I was walking around this, I believe it was God was talking with me, and just these thoughts started coming to my mind, like, how can I have seen these people who have never had a Bible to read? How can I see this and then just go back to my normal life and never think about it again? Or how can I see these kids who don't go to bed hearing Bible bedtime stories about amazing things Jesus has done? They don't have that background or that hope. And how can I just live my life like nothing's happened? And so God started to use some of those experiences to really bring me towards the international missions. And I never knew, like, wow, I'm going to go to Cambodia and I'm going to do church planning and this. It was just one step at a time of, I think God is calling me to get more involved with my youth group back at my home church. And then the next step would be maybe I should go on this short-term trip. And then the next step, maybe I want to study a little bit more about missions and get a better understanding. So it was all just one step after another that has led towards Cambodia. And then the specific calling to Cambodia came once I met this lady here next to me.
So if you didn't know, we are married. We didn't just come together. And so for me, I would say my call to Cambodia started when I was born. And so I was adopted and I didn't know my biological family. But what I did know is that I wanted to come to Cambodia someday to learn more about my heritage, to learn more about where my family came from. And so I think looking back on my life, it was really a process of really having a relationship with God and learning how to hear his voice. And so I went to church, I ended up going to college, and in 2017 or 2015, I think, God may have thought I was ready. And so I had an opportunity to come to Cambodia for a short-term internship. And I almost missed it. I almost did not answer that call. And so thank God that I did. And when I came, I didn't have long-term missions in mind at all. I was just there for a short time to learn about the country. But during that time, I was working with victims from human trafficking, rescue from human trafficking, as well as girls who were coming from bad home situations. And it was there that God really opened my eyes to, I think, just the pain and the brokenness of the world. And for him to give me, I guess, open eyes and a heart of compassion was something that allowed him to speak to my heart, and to hear him say, I love these people, but there's just so much brokenness and there's so much darkness. And so I want to use you to reach others, to come into the lives of others, and to be able to have a relationship that we have. And so it was at that moment that I had decided, like, okay, God, I'll be open to long-term missions. I want to come back to Cambodia as I see doors opening for me as a Cambodian to have other conversations with Cambodians about what God has done in my life, and to know that I would not be able to change anything, without the power of Jesus. and that he is the one who we do the work, but he also he is the one who has the power to do it. So I came back to America, I graduated, got married. God took us down a couple of different roads. We still had a lot of growing and a lot of learning to do, but eventually we made it back to Cambodia, and we have been following out that calling ever since. And it's just cool to look back and to see that, sometimes it's a big thing in your face where it's like, God has called me. And sometimes it is just a process. And the start is just saying, God, what do you have for me? And I want to hear you. I want to obey you. And just take me wherever you want.
Thank you. Thank you, Michaela. Thank you, Will. There's a question right here I'll ask before I go to my next one, but Jennifer's asking, where did you grow up and how did your parents respond to your call? And I think this is an interesting question because especially it's true in America, and especially true for many Asians being called to missions. What the parents and family have to say about it is a really big deal. So yeah, please share about that, Michaela.
Right, that is a really good question. I grew up in Russellville, Ohio, which if you don't know where that is, it's about an hour away from Cincinnati. And if you don't know where Cincinnati is, I don't know how to explain. It's very rural. And so I grew up not going anywhere, which is the opposite of Will. So to have this call was a little exciting and surprising. My parents, when I told them, so I have biological and adoptive parents, and I ended up telling both. And my adoptive parents responded of like, I think I've always been, I guess, more independent. And so they were like, okay, if that's what God's calling you to, we can't stop you. But they have been supportive of it and just allowed me the freedom to be able to go and to be overseas with my biological family. Hearing that I'm getting to come back to Cambodia, they were very excited. And I didn't have as strong or deeper of a relationship with them, but we're still talking and in contact. And it's like, oh, when are you coming to Cambodia? Or I get to talk with my family in Khmer now because I'm learning the language. And so they're just really excited for us to be here and to be sharing about Jesus and to learn more about the Cambodians. That's really cool.
Thank you. Thank you, Will and Michaela. So I believe you guys have been in country a couple years now, and it's hard to say what a typical day is like. I know there's been a lot of changes, but try to give us a snapshot of what your life's been like as missionaries in Cambodia.
Yeah, well, we both start the morning off early. We're getting up right around 4:30. We do a couple hours of prayer, and we move into some Hebrew and Greek study. No, I'm just kidding. We don't do that. That would be great, and I applaud those who do. But no, we're normal people. I get up at 6 and 6:30, and Michaela's around 7, and we both usually try to start time off with the Lord and getting our day set. And then after that, it's just who knows. Some regular things that happen. We meet pretty regularly with either a team leader or a coach. So that's like once a week, we'll have a meeting with another missionary. We have language lessons every day. So right now we're doing part-time language lessons. So 1 hour a day. And then there's some time studying after that, or maybe preparing a homework assignment. And then it's really trying to be out with other people. And so for some, that's getting out to, like the market and going and trying to barter, talk to some of the sellers. I think my approach has been more so getting to know like a few people through maybe a church or through a student ministry, and then just trying to get with them one-on-one and trying to get to know them, talk with them. So I think just a mixture of like those relationships is really, really important and key for us, because it is easy actually to just kind of like hole up in your little fortress in your home where it's more maybe comfortable, you're speaking English. And so we try to push ourselves and go out for a walk or something just to talk to people. Anything you would add to that?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, most of the day is working. We also are trying to establish boundaries to be able to be here long term. And so a typical day is a lot of work and a lot of reaching out. And my favorite thing is sitting with our neighbors, just talking, and they know us. And then we also try to make time just to be together at home, and learning to establish those kinds of rhythms of rest and processing, and then just kind of having a routine, so that we can be ready for this all long term.
I'm glad you bring that up, Michaela, too. We can kind of come into a little bit of the next question. I'm going to ask you a few things that have been difficult and what you've also loved about Cambodian culture. But that point you bring up, it's easy on a short-term trip to just like go, go, go. I don't need to sleep. But if you want to be in Cambodia like 10, 20 years, you got to run a marathon. And sometimes that means walking up a hill. Sometimes that means stopping to make sure you're well hydrated. You got to pace yourself. I'm glad you brought that up. So yeah, I know you've been here partly through COVID and a few other things. Share a story or two about what's been hard and also a few things that you just have loved.
Yeah, I can answer that. A few things that have been hard, I think, have been adjusting to just not just being in a different place, but also everything. Our nervous system is almost on overload, and so it's the weather, it's the sights and the sounds, and even if you're in your own home, you're feeling it. Your body is kind of feeling the change. And so I don't know if it was in a book or if it was something someone said to us, but it was like, you got to imagine yourself just going to a whole nother planet. And that has been helpful for us because it's like, okay, so it's not just like moving to a different location, but it's like we have to expect everything to be different and kind of be open to, the hard things. So that's been really hard, just having a sensory overload and then having to work through that and just little by little being like, okay, it's hot. What am I feeling? I have to rest. It's going out to the market. I have to prepare to speak, making lunch in my own home. I have to have the food and go buy the food in the morning on all this stuff. So that's what's been difficult for me, is just like the lack of what I would have back in my home country of, I can just go to McDonald's and buy something, or I can have AC in my home and prepare to make a sandwich or something. So just kind of, I think, planning for that time, but also being aware of, when I'm a little overwhelmed, has been hard, but it's also, helped me find the good things of knowing when to take it easy. And also having grace for myself. If I need to go to a coffee shop with AC for a couple of hours to study or to have a good conversation, that's okay. It's going to help me get through the rest of the day and the rest of the week. So just finding little things that really make it enjoyable at the same time as we're doing the work.
Yeah, I think for me, some of the really cool things that we're loving is, even though it's difficult, learning Khmer has been a really amazing experience, and people, just their grace for us and their patience to sit and listen to us try to stumble through a sentence. And the language itself, I just think it's fun. You have to learn to enjoy the process, because Khmer is I think it's a more literal language. And so like an example would be the word to like something, like, oh, I like this food. The word is cholchet, which literally is the word to enter and heart. So it's something that I like. It's something that enters my heart. And it's just kind of fun. You just have to enjoy, wow, that's a really cool way to look at it. So that things like that kind of can encourage us to keep pressing on and just to enjoy this time that God has given us.